Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the books that I read in the first half of April. I can't believe it's already time for my April mid-month wrap-up. I am doing it like a day early because my schedule won't allow me to do it a different day. So it is the 14th as I'm filming this. I don't know when it's going up exactly, but I feel like I've read enough things to talk about. This month has been a little bit of a mixed bag. We've had some middle-of-the-road things. I have a notable DNF we're going to talk about, but I've had some books that I really enjoyed as well, and we're going to get into all of it. Before I dive into all of the books, this is a reminder that me and Izzy from Happy for Now are co-hosting a bookish retreat to Costa Rica in January 2026. And we currently have 6 early bird spots left available that are $100 off the regular price. You can go check out all of the details. We did a live Q&A that I will link up above if you want to go and check that out. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below or reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer any of them. We are so excited. I feel like, especially with how stressful the world has been lately, the idea of having a getaway like this, getting to build community in person with other people who love books and have time to ourselves, time to relax, do a spa day, all of that sounds fantastic. We are so excited. So we really hope you'll join us. The trip is live now and you can go check it out at the link down below. Now on to the books that I read. If you are new to my mid-month wrap-ups, the way that these work is I talk about all the books that I read in chronological order. At the end of the month, I do my big wrap-up where I go from lowest rated to highest rated and talk about all my reading stats. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to talk about books in the order that I actually read them, with the exception of my DNF. We are going to start there. So the book that I ended up DNFing, I'm sorry, this was actually on my challenge TBR for the year. I tried, y'all. I read, I would say, a little more than a third of it. I didn't quite get halfway, and I just decided this is not going to be for me. So that is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I know this is a classic. I had seen the movie before, which I liked fairly well, so I kind of knew what I was getting, but I did not anticipate how much sexualization of young children there was going to be. For instance, Claudia in this book is only 5. There's also, right around when I finally DNF'd it, was like the sexualization of young boys. It's just, that is that is one of the things that I can't really read. There are other things I can deal with, but that is something that really bothers me, and it kept happening. And then after I DNF'd it, I had several people reach out and tell me, like, yeah, that is an ongoing theme and problem in her work for whatever reason. So that tells me Anne Rice may just not be for me. So I am going to call it quits on Interview with the Vampire. I am really interested in seeing the new TV show. I've heard great things about it. And then somebody was commenting and saying that it's doing some really interesting things where the characters are Black from the Jim Crow South and how that changes that dynamic. I think that's a fascinating idea. I think there's probably a reason this has stuck around. There are things about it that are fascinating, but that child sexualization piece, I can't with it. So unfortunately, I am DNFing that. This month so far, we've also had more than usual manga and graphic novels. I have had a lot going on and have not gotten as much reading done as I normally might in a couple weeks. I mean, I've still read a fair amount, but heads up, there is more than usual manga and graphic novels, which I think is fine. I like them. The first thing that I finished this month was Huda F Wants to Know by Huda Fahmy. This is the 3rd book, I believe, in this YA graphic novel series that I think is fantastic. It's a series of semi-autobiographical, funny graphic novels about growing up in the United States as a Muslim child of immigrants, and they're all fantastic. This one I think is really great and deals with some heavier issues. It deals with having parents getting divorced and being in a more conservative religious community where that's really difficult. And it also deals with mental health and getting help for mental health issues. Again, in an immigrant community that maybe sometimes doesn't prioritize those things in the way that it always should. But the thing that I love about all of these books is they have so much humor, they have so much heart, and they just feel really relatable in this great way. So this was a 5-star read. I definitely recommend it. I have this for review from NetGalley. I also read The Duke's Sister and I by Emma Claire Sunday. This was really fun. It is a sapphic Harlequin historical romance, so it's relatively short, it's heavy on the tropes, but we don't get a lot of sapphic examples of this. This is very rare, and I'm really happy to see more of it. I would read more from this author in the future. It is a debut, and in some ways it reads a little bit like a debut, which is okay. I still had a pretty good time with it. So the story is about a woman who ends up accidentally falling for the sister of the nobleman who is courting her and what they get into. It's really fun and silly and lighthearted. I will say, for me, and I understand why this choice was made, I respect it, but just for me, there were a couple of times where people were unexpectedly so supportive of their relationship that it took me out of the story a bit. What I like about it is that it is a joyful, queer, historical romance, right? And I like that it's drawing on some of the real history of these underground gay clubs that existed, because queer and trans people have always existed and always will exist. And so I love that piece of it. The part of it that I was like, okay, this is maybe like a little bit of a stretch, is that we have multiple family members from both sides who, when they find out about their relationship, are just like easily supportive of it. I was like, that's nice. And I get that you don't want to make things difficult for your heroines. I respect that. For me, it was slightly too far to kind of keep me in that suspension of disbelief. Overall, it was a really fun, cute historical romance, and I would read more. I gave this book 3.5 stars and rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. Then I read Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This is blowing up, man. It's a New York Times bestseller, which I love. It's a really pretty book, and it is a very fun contemporary romance. So Alex Astor is known for her YA fantasy romance, but this is her first adult novel. It is definitely quite steamy, and it's a romance between a screenwriter and a billionaire tech CEO, where she doesn't want anything to do with him at first, but they end up spending time together as she's working on this rom-com movie script set in New York City, because he, as much as she hates being around him, seems to be a muse for her writing, and he needs kind of a fake date for reasons. But of course, sparks end up flying between them. I liked this. It was fun. It was silly. It's got 90s rom-com vibes. It's very New York, got lots of moments in iconic places in New York, which was a fun time, and it's got heart. So I enjoyed it. This was a 4-star read for me. One thing that I did find really interesting is, in case you missed it, back when Alex Astor first debuted, there were all of these rumblings that, oh, she's an industry plant. She got there because of her wealthy dad. And people were like, oh, well, who is she really? Turns out her dad owns like car dealerships and stuff. But there was all of this chatter of like, did she actually deserve what she got kind of thing? And after briefly saying something, she kind of kept quiet on it, which I think was the appropriate thing for her to do as an author. However, in this book, one thing that I found really interesting, kind of knowing that backstory, is that the heroine wants to keep her identity a secret because she doesn't want to be accused of nepotism. And she's like, you don't know me, you don't know what I did to get the success that I have. Yeah, okay, my father is famous, but I got this on my own. No one knew who I was. And so I just found that really interesting as sort of like a subtle comeback to the criticisms of her, of like the fact that she got here on her own. I thought that was interesting. So 4 stars for me. I enjoyed it. Little bit of tea with it. And I did have this for review from the publisher. Next, I read The Last Session by Julia Bartz. A couple years ago, read The Writing Retreat by this author, and it was this bonkers thriller that I loved. It was a wild ride, but I was here for it, and not everybody liked it. And so when I saw that she was coming out with another thriller on NetGalley, I was like, yes, please give it to me. I was looking for a bonkers thriller, and boy, did she deliver. This is, again, not going to be to everyone's taste, just like her first book was not to everyone's taste. But if you're in for a truly wild ride with a lot of out there things that happen, I do recommend it. What can I say about it without spoiling anything? So it is a wild and twisty thriller following a therapist who is working in a psych ward, and they get a Jane Doe in who has amnesia, and they eventually figure out that she is this famous actress from a movie that the therapist loved as a girl. And the therapist also has a lot of childhood trauma, religious abuse, other kinds of sexual abuse, things like that, that she's processing throughout this book. And so they find out who the actress is. She ends up disappearing again. And then the therapist decides to try to track her down and goes to infiltrate this weird wellness retreat in New Mexico. It gets really bonkers, y'all. It gets really bonkers. There's a lot of like sex and drugs and culty vibes and murder. It was great. I gave it 4.5 stars. It is not going to be for everyone, but if you want a roll bonkers thriller with those vibes, I do recommend it. It was fun. Then I read The Indigo Room by Stephen Graham Jones. I had this for review from NetGalley. It is a horror short story. I had one other horror short story I'm going to talk about as well that I also had for review. It's one of those Amazon original collections that they come out with. They're doing a horror one pretty soon if it's not out already. His was interesting. Not my favorite thing that I've read from him, but it was definitely kind of creepy. It follows this woman who's a single divorced mom working at this company, trying to juggle her corporate life with her parenting life. And there's this weird meeting room where you see glimpses of future terrible things that could happen. And it's definitely creepy. The ending is quite chilling. I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Plus Size Player by Danielle Allen. Danielle Allen has been writing these fantastic, very sexy contemporary romances with plus size characters. I definitely recommend her. Curvy Girl Summer was a huge hit. Plus Size Player is also great, and it's part of the same series. You get a cameo of the heroine from book 1, and I think we're setting us up for a book 3 in the series as well. This follows a plus size fashion influencer slash model who doesn't want to settle down. She is like, listen, I'm never going to find all the things I want from one man, so I just have a bunch of them. So I've got the fun one, the smart one, like the romantic one, and I just like date them until they start wanting more and then I let them go. Like that's her deal. She's a player. But there is one guy, the fun one, who's on her Rolodex right now, who doesn't live in town, who she's really starting to develop some feelings for. So it follows kind of their relationship, and then through a series of unfortunate events, unbeknownst to either of them, he turns out to be the CEO of a company she has just signed with. And there is a clause in her contract that is supposed to keep her from having a romantic relationship with anybody in the company. It's very steamy. It's got excellent plus size representation. I think it does a really great job of the influencer elements. That can be hit and miss whether people do a good job of it, but I thought it was done really well. And it's a great romance. I gave it 4.5 stars. I definitely recommend. If you haven't tried Danielle Allen, you absolutely should. This is another one that I had for review. Then I read that other horror short story. This is The Blanks by Grady Hendrix. This one I almost wanted to be like a novella or a novelette. I feel like it could have been longer, but it works fine as a short story, and I did like it. It's really interesting because I think it's supposed to be about the kinds of things that people ignore in order to keep the way that they live, especially people who are wealthy, who sometimes will overlook bad, harmful things because they don't want to make waves and because they like the comfiness of their lifestyle and their community. So this follows a family who summers on this island that is absolutely perfect as long as you pretend you don't notice the monsters. But if you do, you're in trouble. And their 11-year-old son seems to have noticed them. It's pretty awful, but I think it's smart, it's interesting, it's well written, and I like what it's saying subtextually. I gave this 4 stars. Next, I read All the Parts We Exile by Rosa Nazari. This is a queer memoir that I had as an audio influencer copy from Libra FM, so thank you to them. This was fantastic. It's about growing up and coming of age as a young queer Muslim Iranian in a immigrant family in Canada, and the challenges of making different pieces of yourself fit together that people seem to think can't. Queerness, religion, culture, all of those things. And it's very raw, it's very insightful. I thought it was incredibly well written. I gave this 5 stars and I definitely would recommend it. Then I read a book that I have mixed feelings on. It was not quite to my taste, but I think it's a good book, and I think that the right audience could love this book. Okay, so this is Notes from a Regicide by Isaac Fellman. This is queer trans literary fiction with a little bit of a speculative twist. It came out from Tor, and so I think I was expecting the speculative element to be more significant than it is, but this really reads like very character-driven lit fic. Which is not everybody's cup of tea. For me, it's like hit or miss, and this was it was a mix for me. I think what it's doing is well done. I like what it's doing, but it was a bit on the slow side for me. So this is supposed to be set like 1,000 years in the future. You don't get a lot of detail on the futuristic elements. That's kind of the lightly speculative twist, but it's supposed to be a trans man who's a journalist writing a memoir slash biography about the lives of his adoptive trans parents who were political rebels, and their lives and their love and their deaths, and also about his own journey to discover his transness and what that looked like. The thing that I really like about this is that I think part of the project of it is that despite what's happening politically in this country, trans people have always been around and they're not going anywhere. They're still going to exist. They're still going to be finding ways to find love and joy and comfort in themselves and in their bodies as much as they can in the future, regardless of what that looks like, and even if it's still a fight. So I feel like that's a really valuable thing to be putting out into the world right now. It is very slow and very character driven. And so there were times that was not my favorite thing, but I think for what it is, it's really well done. I gave this 3.5 stars. I rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. And again, I could see this being somebody's favorite book, like a book that really, really speaks to them. The writing itself is really lovely. It's not what I was expecting, but it was interesting. And yeah, if you like the sound of queer trans lit fic like that, definitely would give it a try. I had a review copy from Tor, so thank you to them. Next, let's talk about the manga that I read this month for my patron and channel member book club. Every month we have a different theme for book club and patrons get to vote on what we read together. So for April, we were doing manga, and what won was the first 3 volumes of Sweat and Soap by Kintetsu Yamada. I had previously read volumes 1 and 2, and so I reread them and then also read volume 3, which was new to me. So I'm really curious to see how people feel about this when we have book club at the end of the month. I think it should be really interesting. I'll be honest, while I see why there are people who really love the series, it is not my favorite manga series. I particularly struggled with the first book. I think I ended up giving it like 3 stars because it's not bad. It's kind of this awkward workplace romance between this woman who sweats a lot and is really self-conscious about that, and this guy who kind of, I guess as it turns out later in the series, has like a bit of a kink around smelling her sweat, and he develops soaps at the company, and so it's a workplace romance that's kind of like sweet but weird, right? In the first book, she is so anxious all the time. It stressed me out, and I don't love that. It gets better as you get further into the series, but that was like a bit of a challenge for me. The next 2 volumes do get significantly better. I gave both of these 4 stars. They're cute and kind of sexy, and the main character does gain some confidence, which we love to see. I am like, come on, I don't want an overbearing hero who just like runs roughshod over our heroine. Like, not my thing. So not my favorite manga series, but I can see why people love it, and it is cute and quirky and kind of fun. So it'll be interesting to discuss at the end of the month. Finally, I read 2 books for a secret project that I'm not gonna say too much about because that video is coming out pretty soon and you are gonna hear more details on it then. So keep an eye out. But I read Plunge by Joe Hill. This is a horror graphic novel that is really good. It's got body horror and monster horror and has a little bit of a Lovecraftian vibe to it. It follows a salvage mission to try to see what they can get back from this research ship that has surfaced after being missing for 40 years. But when they get there, a bunch of the crew members, presumed dead, are still alive, missing their eyes, and haven't aged a day. And something is very wrong. It was really good. If you like that kind of thing, I do recommend. I gave it 5 stars. And then lastly, I read Kitchen Confidential, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly by Anthony Bourdain. This is a nonfiction memoir of kind of the the gritty underbelly of the world of restaurants, mostly in New York City, but other places as well. It is dark and funny and a wild ride, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. So if you want to hear more thoughts on this and that graphic novel, and you want to find out why I read those books that had not previously been on my TBR, stay tuned for a really fun video coming very soon. Those are all of the books that I've read so far in April. But like I said, it's been a mixed bag. We've got some hits, we've got some misses, we've got a DNF that's notable enough to talk about. You know, it's fine. April historically has just been a really busy month for me. There's a lot of family stuff going on and personal things, so I'm really okay with this. But talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts. If you reach this point in the video, leave me some kind of a heart emoji in the comments down below. I feel like what's been hitting for me this month has really been the romances. A lot of the romances have been pretty good, so leave that in the comments below. Or for your question of the day, what is that thing that you just cannot deal with reading? I know most people have something. For me, it's sexualization of children. I'm just like, it's just, I can't deal with it. What is that thing for you? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, it always helps if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.